Hello, YouTube divers. This is WaterDive 122, and I want to welcome you all to another episode of Magic Metal Mondays. So, today, what we're going to be doing, we are going to be counting down my top 10 all time favorite records. Uh, excuse me. So, basically, way back in the day, like specifically episode 5, I believe, uh, I did a video where I counted down my top 10 all time favorite albums. And looking back on it, my opinions have drastically changed. Um, Many of the albums that were on that video will not be featured here. I decided to bring this idea back just to give you guys a little bit of an update of how my list looks, which, spoiler alert, is, like I said, way different than the previous list that I made. And in my opinion, that's probably for the best. Because as much as I love all those records that I talked about in the other video, and some of them might return here, um, yeah, I've just grown to love more records and more bands better. Just what more can I say? All right, so we got a lot of albums to talk about. So let's jump right in. So coming in at number 10, and I will also be showing the most of the records as we go because I own most of these albums. But yeah, so coming in at number 10, we're going to start off with in the power metal scene. We're going to be talking about The Savage Poetry by Edguy, released in 2000. I'm specifically only talking about the 2000 version here because if you remember from my Edguy ranking, I specifically put the 2000 version of this album uh, as my favorite Edguy album. Um, and yeah, then this album was technically first made in 1995 as a demo, which was cool. It had some cool riffs, some cool ideas, but definitely, definitely very forgettable material. And on this release, on this copy, it comes with the main CD here, and as well as a bonus CD. And this bonus CD has the 1995 demo version, which you can listen to. But yeah, I much prefer the 2000 version where they reworked and re-recorded all of this material. And in my opinion, the amount of work that they've done on this album and with this material is just mind blowing. Like literally, it's night and day. Um, it opens up with Hallowed, which is one of my favorite Edguy songs. Misguiding Your Life, Keys to My Fate. Both songs are just absolute power metal ragers. Sands of Time is a nice soft ballad. Sacred Hell and Eyes of a Tyrant. Sacred Hell, another great speed metal song. Then Eyes of a Tyrant, a nice power metal epic. And then we get to the best parts of this record. The final three tracks, Frozen Candle, another speed metal rager. Then follows that up with a beautiful ballad, Roses to No one of their best ballads, if not their best. Um, and then it ends off with my favorite Edguy song of all freaking time, Power and Majesty. Like seriously, name another Edguy song that has just a more satisfying and juicy riff than Power and Majesty. Simply one of the most underrated power metal songs of all time. One of the best Edguy songs of all. I mean, the best Edguy song, in my opinion. And one of the, like I said, a very underrated song in their discography. And an underrated album too. Um, yeah, this will always be my favorite album from Edguy and one of my all-time favorite power metal records. And depending on the day, might stay in my top 10 all-time favorite albums. Just I love this record from start to finish. If you're a power metal fan and you haven't checked out this record, go for it. So with that said, Savage Poetry from Edguy, specifically the 2000 version, comes in here at number 10. Now, coming in at number 9, um, we're going to be talking about a 1980s hard rock and glam metal album. One of the very first albums in this subgenre. or at least one of the pioneering albums of this subgenre. We're going to be talking about Shout at the Devil from Motley Crue, released in 1983. Just simply an iconic album from start to finish, heavily influential for the 80s hard rock and heavy metal scene. So many bands cite this album as an influence, even to this very day. Um, it is just all killer, no filler, pretty much throughout this entire record. Got a nice back cover as well. Um, yeah, every single song on this album just rocks. You have In the Beginning, which is a nice intro song. Then you have the title track, Shout of the Devil, which is my favorite song from them. Looks That Kills, another classic. Bastards, a very rebellious number that calls back to their Too Fast for Love album. Then you have God Bless the Children of the Beast. Beautiful guitar interlude from Mick Mars. Helter Skelter, the Beatles cover, is just wowzers. Red Hot, another criminally underrated track from Motley Crue. Too Young to Fall in love this track as well. Knock 'Em Dead Kid, again, very rebellious. 10 Seconds to Love, great song as well. Then it ends off with, in my opinion, the weakest song on this record, but it's not terrible, Danger. This whole album is just a rocking album, and it's a very fun album from start to finish. Definitely listen to this record if you haven't heard it. This is definitely one of those records that you have to listen to before you die. Just seriously, what a great album. So that's it. Shout at the Devil from Motley Crue comes in at number 9. Now, number 8, this is the only record that we're going to be talking about in this video that I do not own in any type of capacity yet, because this was a record that I very recently got into, but I still love it. I love it to the point where I would include it on this list, and it's one of the most, and in my opinion, it's one of the most beautiful albums ever made, and that is Once by Nightwish, released in 2004. Seriously, just a beautiful album from start to finish. An album that many Nightwish fans worship as if it was a religion. Seriously. This album, if their sophomore album, Oceanborn from 1998, broke them out, this album, Once, just blew them up even further. This was the record where they had a massive tour. They were selling out stadiums all over the world. So many classic material on here. Dark Chest of Wonders, I Wish I Had an Angel, Nemo, of course, was the big hit from this album. Krieg Mary's Blood, my favorite Nightwish song, and just one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. Dead Gardens, Ghost Love Score, Romanticide, Planet Hell, Dead Poets Make an Artist, or Death Makes an Artist, something around there. Whatever the finished song is at the very end of the record, love that. Yeah, this whole album is just very lush, very poetic, and it's just a classic. How can this not be on my list? Especially with the big power metal and symphonic metal fan that I am. Love this album. Love this album. What a great way for Tarja Turunen to go out, because, this was the last album she was on before she was infamously kicked out of Nightwish. If you know, you know. Yeah. Once just has to be on this list. I love this album, and it will definitely be in my collection at some point this year. So with that said, Once comes in at number 8. Now, moving on to number 7. Excuse me. Speaking of beautiful albums, number 7, we're going to be talking about Anathema and their 2010 album, We're Here Because We're Here. Now, I know a lot of Anathema fans would say either like Weather Systems or Silent Enigma or Alternative 4 or Judgment as being their best records, but We're Here Because We're Here, oh my goodness gracious. I absolutely love this album. So lush, so beautiful, so atmospheric. It's everything you could ever want within an Anathema track, an Anathema album, anyway. The first side of this album in particular, Thin Air, Summer Night Horizon, Dreaming Light, my favorite Anathema song, Everything, and Angels Walk Among Us. Oh my goodness. Five of the best progressive metal slash atmospheric rock songs ever freaking made. And then you have Presence, A Simple Mistake, Get Off, Get Out, and Universal, and Hindsight. All of those songs are great. Simple Mistake in particular is one of their best tracks, and one of their more overplayed songs. Just a super phenomenal album from start to finish. I love this record. Definitely give it a listen if you haven't already. It's just beautiful. All right, now moving on to number 6. We're going to the U.S. power metal now, and we're going to be talking about Hall of the Mountain King by Savatage, released in 1987. I'm going quick because I can talk about these albums for hours on end, but with Savatage, this album is just furious all the way through. It's intense, but at the same time, it's very anthemic and very melodic. Easily the best album in Savage's discography, and they have a lot of great albums, particularly even in this era with Power of the Night, as well as Gutter Ballet, Streets, Handful of Rain, Edge of Thorns. All those albums are great, but Hall of the Mountain King is just the cream of the crop. There's no denying it. The Oliva brothers absolutely peaked on this record. Chris Oliva's amazing, flawless guitar playing is on. He's just an absolute monster on this record. John Oliva peaked as a vocalist here. He's had a lot of other great vocal performances as well on following records, but this will always be his strongest performance for sure. So many classic songs on here. 24 Hours Ago, Beyond the Doors of the Dark, Legions, Strange Wings featuring Ray Gillen from Badlands. The title track, Hall of the Mountain King. Oh my goodness. Just what an absolutely epic song that is. Prelude to Madness and Last Dawn are two amazing interlude tracks, which kind of became a thing for Savatage in this era of the band. And then you have The Price You Pay, White Witch, and then Devastation. Just an absolutely amazing album from start to finish. This should be in everyone's top 10 all-time favorite records list. Even if you aren't a metalhead. Just seriously, what a freaking album. Alright, so now we're into the top 5. All of these records were incredibly hard for me to rank, but here we go. So coming in at number 5, we've got my favorite debut album of all time, Sonata Arctica's Ecliptica, released in 1999. I cannot believe just how amazing this record is. Even after so many listens, this record still manages to blow my mind. I've talked to death about how flawless Ecliptica is. And Sonata Arctica, again, they're another one of my all-time favorite bands, and they're another band that has made so many amazing albums. But they are the only band that I've listened to so far that has managed to capture lightning in a bottle on their very first album. Seriously, as much as I give debut albums flack on this channel, I cannot give Ecliptica any flack whatsoever. This album has their best songs, without a doubt. I mean, Blank File to open up this album. Like, immediately you could tell just the sheer and raw talent that these guys have. My Land's a great song. Eighth Commandment, I love that one. Replica's a nice power ballad. Kingdom for a Heart is a very rocking number. Full Moon, a classic song from the band. Letter to Dana, oh my goodness, I love that song. Unopened is a great song. Picturing the Past, my favorite Sonata Arctica song of all time. And then ending off with the epic that is the mini epic anyway, that is Destruction Preventer. Love this album, and I even love the bonus tracks as well, especially Mary Lou. Both versions, the acoustic version or the power metal version. I personally prefer the power metal version, but both both versions of Mary Lou are just as good. Seriously, love this album from start to finish. Ecliptica just easily has to make it into my top 10 favorite records of all time. Alright, now we are closing in on the gap here. Holy smokes. Alright, so coming in at number 4, we're going to be talking about, in my opinion, the greatest progressive metal album ever made. And that is 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence by Dream Theater, released in 2002. I recently got this for Christmas, as I did with Ecliptica. But holy smokes, man. What can I say about this album that hasn't already been said? Glass Prison, Blind Faith, Misunderstood, The Great Debate, Disappear, and then the 42-minute title track, if you include it as one, if you classify it as one individual track as opposed to 8 mini tracks. You can't get much more of a complete record than this. Like, this album is balls to the wall insane. This record is balls to the wall beautiful. This record is balls to the wall. Pretty much every adjective you could throw, any positive adjective you could use, apply it here, and we'll be in good shape. Excuse me. Just easily one of the greatest records ever made from one of the best bands ever. Just, oh my goodness, I love this freaking record so much. And this record changed my life. What more do you want me to say? This record just single-handedly changed the way I listen to music. It's had that big of an impact on me. So you think it would be number 1, but there are 3 other albums that I could say are a little bit more important to me than this. That's mostly because the final 3 records on this list are records that I've spent more time with compared to this. That's literally the only reason why this is not higher on the list. Otherwise, it would be. So, yeah, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence comes in here at number 4. Coming in at number 3, this is technically a tie between 2 albums because I was just done picking which one was better than the other. We're going to be talking about Keeper of the Seven Keys by Helloween, released in 1987 and 88 respectively. I've got the first part here on CD. I don't own the second part yet. Initially, I had part 2 as my favorite of the 2 classic Keeper of the Seven Keys albums. But over the years, I've really developed a soft spot for part 1 as well. And I kept going back and forth with which one was my favorite, whether it was part 1 or part 2. But I couldn't decide, so I'm just going to put both of them as a conjoined third spot. They're basically the same album. If you really want to get technical about it, it's the same story, same band members. The only difference is that they were released like a year apart from one another. But I got part 1 here. It's got I'm Alive, Little Time, Twilight of the Gods, A Tale That Wasn't Right, Future World, and Helloween. Just those latter 3 songs, all classics from Helloween. And then on part 2, it gets even better with Eagle Fly Free, March of Time, Rise and Fall, Keeper of the Seven Keys, Dr. Steen, I Want Out, You Always Walk Along, and we got No Right, and we got The Right. All of those songs are just bangers. And even the interludes on both of these songs, like Initiation and Follow the Sign on part one, and then Invitation on part two, simply just wow. What more can I say? So Keeper of the Seven Keys, parts one and two from Helloween, makes it here at number 3. Now coming in at number 2, this didn't change from the previous top 10 of all time, top 10 albums of all time video, and that is Tales from Topographic Oceans by Yes, released in 1973. The greatest pre-Rush progressive rock album of all time. Seriously, many Yes fans, I mean, there are a few people, there are some Yes fans that don't like this album. I will never understand that. This album is just filled to the freaking brim with so many beautiful epic songs. You got The Revealing Science of God, which is still my favorite Yes song of all time. The Remembering, just a wonderful atmospheric cut. The Ancient has some of the best guitar work from Steve Howe to date. And then Ritual, just a wonderful payoff to this whole bonanza of a record. Tales from Topographic Oceans is easily still my favorite Yes album, and it will definitely remain that way for a very, very long time. Yes has a lot of great albums, particularly in the 70s, but yeah, this is where the band peaked, in my opinion. Just, wow. So yeah, Tales from Topographic Oceans comes in at number 2. And then finally, if you've been playing along and if you've known me since the channel started, you know what number 1 is. And I do own this album. I own it, I believe my dad has it on vinyl. If you go back to the first episode of What's on the Turntable, then you'll see it. It's Hemispheres by Rush, released in 1978. Yes, this album still remains my all-time favorite record. Simply because you can listen to this record from start to finish and just be in awe all the way through. All the way through. Cygnus X1 Book 2, Hemispheres, one of the best songs ever made, if not the best song ever made. Just, oh my goodness. Circumstances, a very fun rockin' song. The Trees is a very classic song. And then the album ends with the greatest instrumental I've ever heard, La Via Strangiato. Seriously. What more can I say? Hemispheres is just beyond flawless. It's in my opinion, the greatest record ever made by anyone. Yeah, it's another record I plan on getting on CD very soon. I have no idea why I don't have that album on CD. It's just blasphemous to me, but whatever. So those are my top 10 all-time favorite records. This video was quite long, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. So yeah, let me know what your top 10 favorite records are in the comment section below if you so greatly desire to do so. They don't even have to be rock or metal albums. Throw in any genre. And yeah, list me any of y'all's recommendations. So with that said, that concludes this edition of Magic Metal Mondays. Thank you so much for watching, my fellow YouTube divers. This is WaterDive122 signing out. Ready to dive into more fun on YouTube. Thanks for watching.